Class 9, in the beginning of the session, in school only, we have completed chapter 1 and 2 of history, that is the Harappan civilization and the early Vedic age. Now we'll start chapter number 3, history, the later Vedic age. So in this later Vedic age, we'll discuss about the different sources to reconstruct the later Vedic age, and a brief comparison of the political organization with the early Vedic age, and other comparative study of early and later Vedic age, like economic life, social life, etc., and a brief comparison of their religious life also, and we'll also talk about the epics. Okay, let's start the class. The Vedic age was divided into two periods or two parts, the early Vedic age and the later Vedic age. Okay, the early Vedic age is said to have ended around 1000 BC, and when we talk about the later Vedic age, the next 500 years described as a later Vedic period, right? Now let's talk about the sources to reconstruct the later Vedic age. So different sources are there. Number one is the Vedas, and second is Smritis and epics, and the third is archaeological sources. So when we talk about Veda, there are the later Vedic literature includes the later Vedic literature includes the Yajur Veda, Atharva Veda, and Samaveda, right? And the early Vedic, when we talk about the early Vedic literature, that includes the Rig Veda, right? Okay, now this Vedas or Ved, that consists of two parts. Number one is the Samhita, and number two is the Brahmana. So Samhita is what? It's comprised of hymns and prayers to be sung at rituals and sacrifices. So it includes what? Samhita includes different types of hymns and prayers which are sung at the rituals and sacrifices, right? And the Brahmanas are prose text that explain the detail in the meaning of the hymn. So the meaning of the hymns are written in Brahmana. Right? Okay. Now besides these, there are Aryanakas also, the forest text, and the Upanishad, which contain the philosophical thoughts of learned sages on soul, God, and the ultimate truth or reality. So beside these Vedas, Samhitas, Brahmanas, there were Upanishads, and there were forest texts also, which were known as Aryanakas and Upanishads. So that Upanishads that contain the philosophical thoughts given by the learned sages, right, on the on soul and God and ultimate truth or reality. Next is Smritis and epics. So epics, we know that the two epics, Mahabharata and Ramayana, these were written in this later Vedic period age, right? And many other literary productions were handed down in the course of many centuries. Some of these Smritis and epics were the Ramayana, or are the Ramayanas and the Mahabharata. Next is archaeological sources. So this the archaeological sources include axes made of iron and other iron tools. So the later Vedic people were familiar with four types of pottery: black and red ware, black slipped ware, painted grey ware, and red ware. So they were very much familiar with the iron and iron tools, and very much familiar with the four different types of pottery, right? Next is spread of Vedic civilization to many new regions in India. Okay, now the spread of the civilizations to many new regions in India. So with the increase in population, the Aryans, they started moving or shifting along the course of rivers to the river Ganga and Yamuna. The scene shifted from the Punjab to the land of Kurus, which was the region around modern Delhi. So Delhi was known as Kurus, right? Further, they occupied vast region to the east, such as Kosala, that is East Uttar Pradesh, Kashi, Varanasi, Videha, that is North Bihar, and Magad, that is South Bihar. So the name Vanga, that is Bengal, occurs in one of the Aryanakas forest texts. So it was mentioned in the forest text Aryanakas, and the Etariya Brahmana, that is mentioned in the Andhras, who in modern times are the Telugu speaking people of the southern India. So thus the territories occupied by later Vedic Aryans. So Aryans during later Vedic, they occupied almost whole India, whole northern India, as well as north India and some region even in the south of the of that river. So from this we can say that the Aryans in later Vedic period or age, they occupied almost whole northern India, and towards south they entered some of the regions of South India also, right? Okay, now next is role of iron in later Vedic economy. So from that use of iron and iron tools, we come to know that the Aryans were very familiar with the iron and iron tools, right? So axes made up of iron made it easier to fell trees and clear forest. That made more and more land available both for the cultivation and colonization. Iron plowshares made deep plowing easy. It helped the peasants to produce varied crops, different types of crops. Carpenters, masons, metal workers started working with better iron tools. This gave rise to the development of different crafts. Increased agricultural productivity led to the growth of trade and commerce. This gave a momentum to the rise of towns and cities. So from this we come to know that Aryans were very much familiar with the iron and iron tools, and that gave a momentum to the rise of towns and cities, right? So let's talk about the evidence to suggest that the southern India had also become familiar with iron. So megalith, as we all know, megalith means big stones, right? Monuments such as dolmens and cromlech have been found all over South India. The word megalith means large stone, big stone. A dolmen or a cromlech is a megalithic tomb with a large flat stone laid on upright ones. Iron tools are arrows and fragments of rice and other grains have been found besides the skeletons of the persons buried in these graves. This is enough to show the transition from copper and Bronze Age culture to the Iron Age. So from this megalith, we come to know that the Aryans in the later age, they were very much familiar with the iron and iron tools, and that has been confirmed from the a monument called megalith. Okay, this is the picture of megalith. So megalithic tomb, we can say. So these are encircled with big stones. That is why it is known as megalithic tomb, right? So now this tomb or this megalithic megalith is used to engrave or used to bury the dead bodies, right? And it is covered with this big stones, right? And what the Aryans did, the Aryans, they they used to put iron tools, arrows, fragments of rice and other grains, right? They used to put here. Why they put here? these grains and iron tools and arrows and fragments of other rice and grains, so that so that um, so that the dead would utilize those items and iron tools. And this also shows, not only show that they were very much familiar with the iron and iron tools, but also shows that they believed in life after death, right? That is why they used to put food grains, rice grains, and other items like iron tools and arrows and fragments, right? Okay. Now next is comparative study of early and later Vedic society. Okay, let's talk about the position of women of early Vedic period and later Vedic period. So earlier in the that means in the early Vedic period, the women were treated equally. They were given equal position like men, and women could attend assemblies, and they could took part in religious and religious rites and rituals also, and they could offer sacrifices along with their husbands. But in the later Vedic age, women were treated as given a lower positions. They were subordinate to subordinate to their male partner, right? And all the women continued to associated with all the rituals and rites. The rules of marriage underwent a change, and if monogamy was the ideal, polygamy was also. If monogamy was the ideal, polygamy was a practice, at least in the highest section of society. So monogamy or monogamy means marrying one person, right? And that was ideal. But polygamy means marrying more than one person. So polygamy was also in practice, right? Okay, the practice of widows remarriage was very much common in the Rig Vedic period, but that marrying that widows again, that in the Rig Vedic age was now regarded as disfavor, right? So but the education which some of the women received was of high order, and that we can be that can be seen. The discourses of women philosophers are preserved in the Upanishads, right? So as we compare to the position of women, so the position of women was not very good in later Vedic period or later Vedic age, as when we compare with the early Vedic period or age. Now come to the caste system. So in the later Vedic period, the caste society was divided into four varnas, and as we all know that four varnas were the Brahmin, the Kshatriya, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras. But with the growing cult of sacrifices added much power to the power of Brahmins and Kshatriyas, right? So they enjoyed or the powers and the privileges denied to the Vaishyas and the Shudras, right? Because Brahmins and Kshatriyas, they enjoyed much than the Vaishyas and the Shudras. In the later Vedic age, the membership of Varna or that of caste had become hereditary also, right? So hereditary means if the grandfather was a carpenter, then his son and grandson will follow the same occupation. That means they will become carpenter only. So that is hereditary, right? So in the later Vedic age, the membership of this Varna or that the caste had become hereditary. So the caste also became hereditary, right? So there was also fixation of occupations on the basis of one's caste. The position of Shudras was made miserable by depriving them the rights of learning the sacred text and performing sacrifices. So the life of Shudras Their conditions and the life was very pathetic. They were deprived of learning or imparting sacred text, as well as performing sacrifices also, right? So because they were so called as untouchables, or Dalit, Shudras, right? Untouchables. So were forced to leave. So untouchables, Shudras, and Dalits, they were forced to live in separate settlements outside the village or the town boundaries. So their life was miserable. Next is the four ashrams or stages of life. So the man's life was divided into four stages, four ashrams. Number one is the Brahmacharya ashram. That means was mainly devoted to education for development of body and mind, and that means and the age was also divided like birth to till he or she attains the age of 25 years. So that is Brahmacharya ashram. Second is Grihastha ashram, was the period when man married and led a family life. So that means the age between 25 years to 50 years, right? And the Vanaspratha ashram was spent in the meditations and prayer. That means 50 to 75 years. And the last phase was the Sannyasa ashram. That means one had to renounce all worldly pleasures and in the forest as a sannyasi, right? So that means after the age of 75 years. So one should follow, or one should adopt that phase, that was sannyasa phase or ashram, and one had to renounce all the worldly pleasures. Means one had to leave all the pleasures and comforts, and they have to live in forest as a sannyasi, right? Now next is Gurukul system of education. So Gurukul system of education was there in the later Vedic age and the early Vedic age, and had become well established in the later Vedic times. The students stayed with their guru for their physical, mental, and spiritual development. So a type of school we can say. So the students, the pupils, they had to be with their gurus, right, in Gurukul, in that school, for their physical, mental development and spiritual development also. Besides Vedic literature, what was imparted? Secular subjects like logic, ethics, military science, mathematics, law, astronomy, astrology, these were included in their courses of study. So no fees were charged, no fees were taken for this type of education, but the pupil paid a voluntary contribution known as Guru Dakshina when they completed their education. So finally, when they completed their education, they had to pay a contribution, voluntary contribution, which was known as Guru Dakshina. Children belonging to both rich and poor families had to stay together. They rendered various duties in the running of Gurukul. They gathered fuel, tended the cattle, begged alms from the neighboring villages, and worked in the fields attached to the Gurukul. So the people, whether they belong to poor family or rich family, or old or noble family or poor family, they had to sit together, and they had to give, or they had to perform different duties for the smooth running of Gurukul, like gathering of fuel, gathering of logs of woods, or log of woods and logs, or tended the cattle, rearing of cattle, begged alms from the neighboring villages, and worked in the fields attached to the Gurukul, right? Okay, now next is a brief comparison of their political organization. Okay, children, rest of the topics we'll do in the next video. And I want that everybody is sending assignments regularly. And whosoever is not sending assignments, I suggest you to send those pending assignments as soon as possible, because we'll consider these assignments as your internal assessment. So will consider it as internal assessment, and definitely you are getting marks on it, right? So positively you send, and pending work, if pending work to be completed on time, and just send it as soon as possible, right children? Okay, so we'll meet in the next video. Till then, take care, stay safe, bye bye.